What if everything you thought you knew about your favorite British star was a lie? Beneath the polished glamour of the screen, some of the most beloved figures in film history are hiding horrifying secrets that could shatter their legacies. From infidelity to betrayal, these stars' real lives will make you question everything. Stay tuned to uncover the shocking truth behind the faces you trust. Some of these revelations may leave you speechless. At number 1 is Helen Mirren, 2005. Behind the poised elegance of Dame Helen Mirren lies a family tragedy that few know about. While she's revered for her impeccable performances and commanding presence, Mirren's early life was marked by the heartbreaking loss of her beloved brother. His sudden death in the early 2000s shook her to the core, leaving an emotional scar that never fully healed. Despite her public success, Mirren was grappling with grief in silence, shielding her vulnerability behind the regal persona we all adore. The personal pain was something she rarely discussed, but the sorrow seeped into her roles, creating a depth that resonated with audiences worldwide. Looking back at her performances after this loss, there's an undeniable sadness in her eyes, a rawness only someone who has truly suffered could convey. Mirren's resilience was nothing short of extraordinary as she continued to rise above the heartbreak, becoming a beacon of strength. Yet, despite her outward poise, the tragedy remained a guarded secret, only known to those closest to her. Could her hidden grief have been the silent force behind some of her most powerful, emotionally charged performances? It's a question that haunts the legacy of one of Britain's most beloved actresses. At number 2 is Hugh Grant, 1995. Hugh Grant's fall from grace in the mid-90s was as unexpected as it was scandalous. The charming rom-com heartthrob, known for his perfect blend of wit and vulnerability, found his world turned upside down after his arrest in Los Angeles for soliciting a prostitute in 1995. The public shock was palpable as Grant's image as a charming, clean-cut British gentleman was forever tainted by the scandal. While he issued a public apology and faced the media storm, the deeper truth behind his actions was never fully revealed. Was it just a moment of weakness, or was there something darker beneath the surface? Grant's scandal raised more questions than answers, and as the years passed, the truth behind that moment seemed to remain locked away. Despite the scandal, Grant made an extraordinary comeback, resurrecting his career with roles that showcased his depth as an actor. Yet, the shadow of that fateful night always lingered, a constant reminder of the man behind the public facade. What was it about that moment that forever changed him? And how did it shape the roles he would go on to play? The story of Hugh Grant's secret scandal is one that will never be forgotten, even as he worked hard to redeem his public image. At number 3 is Emma Thompson, 1998. Emma Thompson's marriage to actor Kenneth Branagh seemed like the perfect pairing, two brilliant minds, both at the height of their careers. But the reality behind the scenes was far from the fairy tale that fans had imagined. Thompson, a brilliant actress and writer, was blindsided by Branagh's affair with another woman in 1998. The affair tore their marriage apart, and Thompson was left to pick up the pieces. While she rarely spoke about the emotional toll the betrayal took on her, it was clear that the heartbreak seeped into her work. Thompson's performances during this time, filled with raw emotion and intensity, were influenced by her personal pain. She was able to channel that anguish into some of her most memorable roles, bringing a level of authenticity that would have been impossible to achieve otherwise. Yet behind her brilliant public persona, the wounds from Branagh's betrayal remained. Could it be that her most iconic performances were fueled by the deep personal heartache she was enduring? The secrecy around Thompson's painful divorce only adds another layer of complexity to her legacy, showing just how much of an impact personal struggles can have on an actor's craft. And number 4 is Sean Connery, 1962. Sean Connery, the first James Bond, will forever be etched in the annals of cinema history for his iconic portrayal of the suave, unflappable 007. However, beneath the polished charm and commanding screen presence lies a darker side to his legacy. Connery's personal life, especially his relationships with women, was often marred by deeply troubling allegations of abuse. His own words, "I don't believe in the women's lib movement," left many questioning his views on women's rights and gender equality. His legacy as the ultimate masculine icon seemed at odds with the abusive tendencies reported in his personal life. Connery's unfiltered views and the way he treated those close to him painted a disturbing picture, one that many of his fans preferred to ignore. Yet despite these flaws, Connery remained one of the most revered actors in the world, with his portrayal of Bond influencing generations of men. How could a man who defined masculinity in such a legendary way also harbor such controversial beliefs? The contradiction between Connery's public persona and private actions is a chilling reminder of how fame can sometimes mask the most uncomfortable truths. His legacy remains deeply divided, and it begs the question, could the man behind the icon ever truly be reconciled with his darker side? And number 5 is Richard Burton, The Curse of Alcohol and Anger, 1962. Richard Burton, a towering figure in film, was known for his intense performances and undeniable charisma. But behind the public persona was a man grappling with alcohol and anger that often overshadowed his greatness. Burton's marriage to Elizabeth Taylor was a public spectacle, but the internal battles he fought were less visible. Alcoholism consumed him, fueling his violent outbursts and emotional abuse. Burton himself admitted to his demons, acknowledging how alcohol drove him to actions he later regretted. The tumultuous marriage to Taylor only exacerbated the chaos, with their explosive arguments and toxic love affair playing out in front of the public. Despite his struggles, Burton remained one of the most talented actors of his time. Yet, his addiction and anger took a toll on both his career and personal life. Was his downward spiral the result of a deep internal void, or did his marriage to Taylor push him to the breaking point? The question of whether his greatest performances were born out of tragedy or fueled by his destructive tendencies lingers. Burton's legacy, intertwined with his struggles, is a complex one, serving as a bittersweet reminder of the human cost of fame. At number 6 is Diana Rigg, 1970s. Diana Rigg, famous for her role as the enigmatic Emma Peel in The Avengers, was not only a symbol of strength and sophistication on screen, but also a woman with a hidden scandalous past that the public knew little about. In the 1970s, Rigg was involved in a high-profile affair with a married man, one that rocked her personal life and the perception of her as the epitome of grace. The affair, which she kept under wraps for years, was an open secret within her inner circle, but never made it into the tabloids, adding an air of mystery to her reputation. While Rigg continued to build a stellar career, including roles in Theater of Blood and later as Olenna Tyrell in Game of Thrones, her emotional turmoil from the affair remained largely unknown. The betrayal and heartbreak from this secret relationship not only affected her personal life, but also seeped into her work, leading to performances rich with subtle tension and hidden anguish. Rigg was known for her poise, but the affair and the surrounding gossip cast a shadow over her personal life, leaving fans and close friends to wonder if the powerful, independent woman they saw on screen was, in fact, masking a more vulnerable side. Could the heartache she kept so well hidden have played a role in shaping some of her most iconic roles? This lingering mystery only deepens her allure as an actress and a woman of remarkable strength, constantly grappling with the conflict between her public and private selves. At number 7 is Alan Rickman, 1989. Alan Rickman, beloved for his portrayal of Severus Snape in Harry Potter and his memorable performances in Die Hard and Sense and Sensibility, live a life that was far more complex than his cinematic character suggested. Beneath the intense roles and the magnetic screen presence, Rickman harbored a deeply painful secret, the unspoken love for a woman he could never have. In the late 80s, Rickman fell in love with a fellow actress, but circumstances and his own personal reservations prevented him from pursuing the relationship. This quiet, unrequited love shaped much of his life, and though Rickman married later in life, the heartache from his earlier experiences never truly disappeared. His characters, often marked by a brooding intensity, seemed to reflect the deep emotional undercurrents he carried within himself. Rickman's unspoken sorrow was something he kept entirely private, never letting the public into this painful chapter of his life. His performances were often filled with layers of melancholy, which many now suspect were born from his own personal longing and loss. The subtle sadness in his portrayal of Snape, a man defined by quiet restraint and inner conflict, is perhaps the most fitting tribute to the love he never fully expressed. While Rickman may have been a master at hiding his vulnerability, it's clear that his greatest performances came from a place of deep personal sorrow. How much of his genius was shaped by this silent grief? At number 8 is Julie Andrews, 1965. Julie Andrews, the beloved star of Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music, was known for her uplifting, radiant presence that charmed audiences across the globe. However, behind her smile and enchanting voice was a woman who battled a deep personal struggle that she kept hidden for decades. In the mid-1960s, after the height of her fame, Andrews was thrust into a turbulent period of her life. Despite her public success, Andrews faced a sudden and painful medical crisis. The loss of her vocal cords from a botched surgery in the early 70s led to permanent damage to her voice, causing her to lose the one thing she cherished most, her ability to sing. This devastation was a blow not only to her career, but to her identity. Despite her inner turmoil, Andrews continued to work in the spotlight, taking on roles that demanded a strength beyond what was visible on the surface. Her vulnerability was largely concealed from the public eye as she chose to carry on with grace and resilience, refusing to let this physical setback define her. While Andrews managed to reinvent herself as an actress, the pain of losing her voice stayed with her throughout her career. The extent of her emotional and physical struggle wasn't fully realized until much later in her life. Could her most poignant roles, especially in her later years, be the result of a lifetime of hidden heartache? At number 9 is Michael Caine, 1965. Sir Michael Caine, one of Britain's most iconic actors, has always been admired for his working-class roots and remarkable rise to fame. However, there's a side to Caine that many people don't know about, a web of deception that almost cost him everything. In the early years of his career, Caine was not only struggling with financial instability, but was also involved in a series of lies about his background and education. To help land more prestigious roles, Caine fabricated a polished backstory, claiming to be from a more sophisticated background than he really was. This deception was intended to elevate his status in the industry, but also created a complicated identity crisis that he battled for years. Caine's fierce desire to prove himself as a serious actor led him to make significant sacrifices, hiding his true self in an effort to conform to the expectations of the glamorous world he'd entered. The cost of this deception weighed heavily on him, and as the years went by, Caine began to fear that the world would eventually see through his carefully constructed facade. Yet despite the inner conflict, Caine thrived in Hollywood, becoming one of the most respected actors of his generation. But at what cost was his career built on lies? Or was it his personal vulnerability and willingness to reinvent himself that allowed him to succeed? At number 10 is Audrey Hepburn, 1942. Audrey Hepburn, forever immortalized for her role in Breakfast at Tiffany's, was the epitome of grace, elegance, and beauty. But her story, hidden from the public eye for much of her life, is one of hardship and resilience. Born in 1939 in Belgium, Hepburn's early childhood was marked by deep suffering during World War II. Her family struggled to survive under Nazi occupation, and Hepburn, then a young girl, was exposed to the horrors of war. As the war ravaged Europe, Hepburn witnessed firsthand the extreme conditions that many of her peers had to endure, including starvation, trauma, and the loss of loved ones. These formative years left a permanent emotional scar, one that she would later channel into her humanitarian efforts. Hepburn's early experiences, though rarely discussed, were the foundation of her later work as an ambassador for UNICEF. Her poise and perfection on screen, were in stark contrast to the pain she carried from her war-torn childhood. Hepburn's ability to compartmentalize her past allowed her to blossom into one of the most adored actresses of her time. Yet, behind her bright smile was a woman who had lived through unimaginable suffering. How did Audrey Hepburn's tragic childhood shape the woman the world came to love? And how much of that sorrow stayed with her as she achieved fame and success? At number 11 is Terence Stamp, 1967. Terence Stamp, renowned for his captivating presence and roles in films like The Collector and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, hid a deep emotional pain that many never knew about. Known for his cold, calculated characters on screen, Stamp's life was far from that composed exterior. In the late 60s, he faced a breakdown that took him far from Hollywood. After years of navigating the superficiality of fame, Stamp was consumed by a profound sense of loneliness and disillusionment. Despite the successful career, the immense pressure of his public persona led to a crisis of identity. In the face of widespread success, Stamp retreated from the spotlight, leaving behind a career he had built from sheer ambition. His struggle with mental health and the emptiness of fame led him to reconsider his place in the industry. For years, Stamp refused to conform to the Hollywood machine, opting instead to live a quieter, more introspective life. It wasn't until much later in his career that he regained his footing, delivering iconic performances that reflected the raw vulnerability he had hidden for so long. Could his personal battles, including depression and the quest for peace, have shaped the complexity of his characters? His journey of self-discovery and redemption makes Terence Stamp's story one of Hollywood's greatest comebacks, but also a tale of personal tragedy. At number 12 is Peter O'Toole, 1962. Peter O'Toole's charismatic performance in Lawrence of Arabia cemented his place as one of cinema's most legendary actors. Yet few knew the deeply troubled personal life that lay beneath his public success. O'Toole was renowned for his fiery temperament and notorious drinking, but his struggles with alcoholism and the toll it took on his relationships are often overlooked in the face of his professional achievements. Despite his immense talent, O'Toole's personal demons overshadowed his career, especially in his younger years when he spiraled into substance abuse, leaving him haunted by regret. His tempestuous relationships, especially with his longtime partner, actress Sian Phillips, were plagued by emotional pain and infidelity. What few knew, however, was the vulnerability he masked behind his bravado and immense talent. O'Toole, while known for his fierce intellect, also struggled with self-doubt and an inner emptiness that led to his destructive lifestyle. His professional acclaim never fully healed the wounds of his personal life, and his later years were marked by a sense of loss and missed opportunity. Did O'Toole's struggles with addiction fuel some of his most dramatic, tortured roles? His journey is a powerful reminder that even the greatest talents are not immune to the crushing weight of inner turmoil. At number 13 is Julie Christie, 1965. Julie Christie, the stunning actress who captured hearts in films like Darling and Dr. Zhivago, hid a deep personal struggle behind her radiant smile and undeniable beauty. While she was known for her career-defining roles, particularly in the swinging 60s, Christie's personal life was far more complex. In the 1960s, Christie experienced a painful emotional upheaval as she struggled with the pressures of fame, public scrutiny, and personal loss. Her romantic relationship with actor Warren Beatty became one of the most talked about in Hollywood. Yet, it also brought immense heartache. Their relationship was fraught with emotional turbulence, and Christie's sense of isolation intensified, particularly as Beatty's infidelities became widely known. But behind the glamorous public facade, Christie was deeply affected by these emotional battles. She later retreated from the industry, seeking a more private life, and avoided Hollywood's incessant glare. She kept much of her personal pain hidden, especially the struggles with self-worth and insecurity that came with constant media attention. Did these emotional struggles shape her most memorable roles, particularly those where vulnerability and internal conflict were key themes? Julie Christie's career is a tale of balancing personal heartbreak with professional triumph, a testament to her strength as an actress and a woman navigating fame's darker side. At number 14 is Vanessa Redgrave, 1967. Vanessa Redgrave's career has spanned decades, marked by her powerful, multifaceted performances in both theater and film. Yet, beneath her public persona as a British icon lies a deeply political and personal struggle that many don't see. In the late 1960s, Redgrave became embroiled in political activism, dedicating much of her life to causes she believed in, particularly her outspoken advocacy for left-wing politics. Her activism earned her both admiration and scorn, with many in the industry either applauding or criticizing her unwavering stance. But her dedication to political causes came at a personal cost. The public's reaction to her beliefs, especially when she faced fierce backlash for her association with controversial organizations, led to significant emotional and psychological tolls. Redgrave was often torn between her artistic career and her passion for social justice, finding it difficult to reconcile her roles as an activist and as a celebrated actress. Her personal life, too, was fraught with heartbreak. Her daughter, actress Natasha Richardson, tragically passed away in a skiing accident, a loss that devastated Redgrave. How did the weight of both her political and personal struggles shape her performances, often marked by emotional intensity and depth? Vanessa Redgrave's story is one of immense sacrifice and resilience, a reminder of the hidden costs that come with both fame and activism. At number 15 is Ingrid Bergman, 1946. Ingrid Bergman, one of Hollywood's most revered actresses, was the epitome of grace and elegance on screen. Yet her personal life was far more controversial, particularly her affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini in the mid-1940s. At the time, Bergman was married to a prominent doctor, and the affair caused a media frenzy, with the public's moral outrage directed at her. The scandal was so intense that it led to Bergman being shunned by Hollywood. The backlash was swift and harsh, with Bergman even being banned from making films in the United States. This period of exile was one of the most difficult times in Bergman's life, but also one that led her to reinvent herself. Despite the professional fallout, she continued to work in Europe, delivering some of her most iconic performances. Her relationship with Rossellini, while intensely romantic, ultimately led to the end of her marriage and left her personally torn. Yet her resilience shone through as she embraced her new life, proving that a scandal could not define her. Was her return to prominence and her subsequent work a result of the turmoil she had endured, or was it a testament to her remarkable strength? Ingrid Bergman's legacy as one of the greatest actresses in cinema history is forever intertwined with the personal battles and the love affair that nearly destroyed her career, making her story one of redemption and reinvention. The hidden lives of these iconic British stars reveal a side of fame few ever see, one filled with struggle, betrayal, and untold stories. Behind the polished public personas, these secrets shaped their careers and legacies in ways we never imagined. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more shocking revelations.